Welcome to the Parenting Power Podcast, supporting parents with the real-life tools they need to raise the confident, interdependent people the world needs. Gail Bell and Julie Freedman Smith interview experts who share their knowledge to assist parents in creating a home environment where kids can thrive.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Tools for the Trade. I'm Julie Freedman Smith.
And I'm Gail Bell.
And today's podcast is brought to you by beanersfuncuts.com. Parenting is hard. Haircuts shouldn't be. Visit beanersfuncuts.com for a location near you. So today's Tools of the Trade is a little bit different. We normally try to make them 2 or 3 minutes, but today we're going to dig in and have a bit of a discussion because we got an interesting question from a parent, and it's perfect for us because it's taking place here in February, and this is a month where we really encourage parents to be super clear about the amount of time that they're spending on their screens. We encourage on No Phone Family Day on February 17th this year to disconnect to connect. So to put down screens as a way of making sure that we're connecting with families. So had a call from a lady who has a son who's 10, he's in grade 5, and the kids in his school are communicating on group chat. And of course, these are 10-year-olds and they don't quite know how to handle themselves on social media yet. So she was really feeling like she needs to know how to teach her kids how to manage it, where she can find resources to teach the kids these skills, and how he should respond when he sees something he doesn't like. This was a perfect opportunity for us to have a conversation and share some of the things that parents can be doing to prepare their kids, whether their kids are 10 or whether their kids are 12 or 14 or 15, whatever it is, about how to handle some of the social yuckiness on social media. So Gail, do you want to start?
Sure. One thing that Julie and I have noticed in the last few years is that the accessibility to social media and the internet is getting younger and younger. Mm-hmm. And we have to know and accept as parents that these devices, if we hand them over to our kids at a young age, they're very mobile. So we cannot supervise them all the time. If they're on a computer at home or a laptop at home, we can be around more. Our first suggestion is be very aware of how young you are handing over these devices to children. So we hear a lot of parents saying, oh, they don't have a phone. No, they're too young for a phone, but they do have an iPod and they do have accessibility to texting if they have an iPod. So we need to know that and make a decision as a family what age we're handing them over, because we do need to think about the responsibility of that, what they can be exposed to, and then finally, how are they going to handle that? So if it is our choice as a family to give our children in elementary school a device that's connected to the internet, then it is also our responsibility to have some very clear guidelines and expectations between the adults in the home before we hand it over. And if you need to write them down, write them down. Have a discussion about that. Just don't hand it over to the kids because everybody has one and I don't want our kid to be left out. That's often the excuse we hear. And it is a real life thing, but think about that first. Very clear guidelines, and then know that you are now putting some more responsibility on your plate of parenting. We also hear parents say, well, I don't know anything about it. How can I teach about that? So Jules?
Well, you're just reminding me of a couple of things here. Number one, if you're wondering how to put those rules in place for your family, we have a worksheet over on our nophonefamilyday.com website. It helps you to establish that parent-child tech agreement. And it's a whole bunch of options, and you just go through, and the things you like, you leave, and the things you don't like, you cross out with a Sharpie. So it's very easy to modify it for your family and your child, depending on what age. So that's just a resource that's readily available for everyone. Gail, you really make the good point. It's pretty easy to just put your head in the sand and say, everybody else is doing it, so we have to do it too. And that's not really something we want to model for our kids. We want to model for our kids, well, everybody else might be doing it, but how do we as a family feel about it, and what's the way we're going to approach this? There's also a great book by Janelle Burley Hoffman called I Rules. It is very applicable. So it's a great way to think about how you want to talk about this with your kids. One of the things this parent was saying is these are conversations going on amongst the kids that are in the same class, but the school's not willing to take any responsibility here. And the reality is that there's so much put upon schools right now, and we we as parents need to take responsibility for this. We can't keep handing off the responsibility to the school. So then we need, if we're agreeing that our kids are going to have this option to interact in the chats, we need to provide them with some tools. We need to remind them, as we need to remind all of our kids, that if something bad happens online, they are not stuck there. They can put down the device and walk away in the moment. If they're too scared, if they're overwhelmed, if they see something that bothers them, they can remove themselves from it immediately. Oftentimes, kids feel like they have to keep being involved and they have to participate in the conversation, but they don't have to. We can be really clear with our kids that they can come to us about anything that happens, either online or offline. And in the heat of the moment, we're going to support them through it. Does it mean that there won't be any consequences ever? Probably not. But our number one goal is to be there to support them through what they're facing. And so they can come to us and say, I don't know how to handle this. So-and-so's saying this, or this person's being really mean. I don't know how to handle it. Can you please help me? And as an adult, then we can step in and start going through some options with them.
Right. So that's some great strategies if they're seeing stuff. Now we have to look at the flip side of that, which sometimes is hard for us to do as parents. But our kid doing it. None of our kids are perfect. None of us are perfect. We've all made mistakes. Kids are making lots of mistakes on devices. I'm not making excuses for them, but kids are making mistakes because they don't know what to do. So they're reacting in the moment. Mm-hmm. So we need to talk about, again, before we pass that over, what is okay in our home to post or not post, and what is okay to say or not say. So there's a lot of really colorful language sometimes. Is that okay or not okay? There's kids posting pictures of other kids. Is that okay or not okay? What kind of pictures can they post of themselves? Or is that okay or not okay? These are the things we need to go through with our children. We need to set our kids up for success. You've heard this from Julie and I a million times, and we won't stop. Kids are awesome. We need to guide and support them in their good and poor choices. And when they make a poor choice, as Julie said, there may be consequences. So those consequences also need to be outlined before. If a child has a device connected to the internet at 10 years of age, there's a lot out there that they can get to. So what are they allowed to explore? What aren't they allowed to explore? What are the consequences if they go somewhere where they've been told they can't go? It is also the parent's responsibility to have consistent check-ins about this. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Consistent. We often hear from parents saying, oh, I don't want to feel like I'm always checking up on them. Well, you know what? When they're 10, you're guiding them. You're not checking up on them. And that's what you tell them. You need to have their passwords and you need to monitor them. And obviously, as they grow older and the trust and their responsibility showing they can manage this, the string gets let out a little bit more, a little bit more. We have so many parents saying, oh, I don't check my kid's phone. It's their device. That's like them talking on the phone. I'm not going to listen to them, so I'm not going to watch them. But then they say, oh, but I creep their phone when they don't know I'm doing it. So what are you modeling? So the more open, transparent, and honest you can be and real life with them, the better this is all going to turn out in the long run.
Yes, 100%. I mean, that is a value that we encourage parents to model across the board. Mean what you say what you mean, and be honest about what's going on, because we want our kids to be honest with us and we want them to know that what we say is really what's happening. We've set some boundaries. We've said what our kids can post. We've told them they can come to us if there's a problem. And then the other part of this is just this social group education around how do we handle things when we hear something said that is cruel? How do we handle things when one of our friends is maybe making a joke, but it's gone beyond the teasing to the taunting end of things? And a few weeks ago, we interviewed Dr. Barbara Colaroso, and she talked a lot about bullying. And in fact, that's what prompted this mom's call to me, because she said, that's in the real world, but what do we do when it's happening online? How do we support our kids? And really, so much of the way we parent and what we teach about real life off of line, is really what we need to also share about being online. So if you're observing a conversation where you see a child or a group of children being mean to another child, there are a few ways that you can respond to this. So the first thing is, if it's too scary for you in the moment, you can, as I said, put your phone down and walk away. However, You could also put your phone down and ask an adult for some support on this. How do we respond to this? And that's a way of being a bystander where you're walking away to get help, but you're still involved in making the situation better. Another way that you could do is step in and say, guys, this isn't nice. Let's clean this up. Let's not talk this way in this group. Or let's make sure that we're treating everybody fairly, if you have the courage to speak that way in your chat. So that's stepping in as a bystander that's a little more active than running away or going away to get help. We really, really want to talk to our kids about how they're behaving ethically online, what kind of language they're using, as Gail said, what kind of image they're projecting, what kind of brand they're demonstrating. And are they saying things, this is a little bit corny, but are they saying things that their grandma would be okay with? Would grandma be okay with this? If grandma wouldn't be okay, if you're getting a feeling in your stomach like, oh, I shouldn't be writing this, grandma wouldn't be okay with it, that's an important feeling to listen to. And sometimes we're going to override that feeling and we're going to learn from the consequences. There's a lot of natural consequences here. But that's really what we want to be sharing with our kids about. This is how you decide whether or not you're going to post. And if you're even curious about it, put down the phone for a minute or whatever device you're on. And just having that moment away from the device can really remind you there's a human on the other side.
Those are all great strategies, Julie. And the thing that is really hard to do sometimes, but we're really encouraging parents, is don't jump in and react on your child's phone. Don't grab the phone from them and respond. You can say, I feel like telling that kid, blah, 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 but that's not helping the situation either. So you may feel like that, but we don't want to be reacting as parents in the moment and trying to fix the problem, or picking up the phone and calling the other parents or the school and asking the school why they're not solving this. So just breathe. That 24-hour rule is a really good thing, and have that conversation and brainstorm with your child all the social language that they could be using. Remember, our kids are not born with social language. That is, again, our responsibility to teach them. So you could say, I'm thinking you could respond this way, this way, this way. And they may say, no, that's stupid. But then they go away and think about it. Or you could say, okay, well, you think about it. How do you think would be a good way to handle this? And let's come together in a couple of hours or tomorrow and talk about this again.
Oh, I love that. And this is just reminding me about that great parenting language. What's your plan? So if if your child comes to you with something, or if you happen to be doing your consistent checks and you notice something, instead of coming, oh my gosh, I can't believe you said that. How could you do that? What's your plan for dealing with the situation that's happening in the chat right now? How do you plan to solve this? How do you plan to make amends? Because what that implies when we ask that is that we actually believe that our child is capable of handling it. They may say, I don't know, I really need your help. And that's great, because then they've opened the door. And as Gail said, they may say, this is my plan. You say, okay, that sounds like one way it could go. Here are some other options. I need to hear from you after lunch what you're going to do. If we're handing over this device, we need to take the time to teach them some ways to do this. And we need to show them that we believe that they're capable, and we trust that they're going to make good decisions much of the time. They're choosing to make poor decisions, then they're choosing to find a way to make amends for those decisions.
Please feel free to send us in any questions. We'll answer them through our tools of the trade when we can.
And remember, No Phone Family Day is February 17th. Please make a plan for how you're going to spend some time disconnecting from your screens to connect with your family.
That's it for today.
We hope that you've enjoyed this episode of the Real Life Parenting Podcast. If you're looking for more real life parenting tools, then please sign up for our weekly Thoughtful Thursday email newsletter. It's free and it's really good. Just visit our website, parentingpower.ca, to subscribe. While you're there, check out our book, A Year of Intentional Parenting. Like this podcast, the book was created to help you feel confident, capable, and calm. Thanks so much for listening, and we look forward to connecting with you again right here every Monday.